Hey guys, Abby here. Welcome to my Fl4k build guide. This is my fourth build for Fl4k. You can find the rest of them down below in the description. Make sure you always check my pinned comment on the video that you're looking at and the description for any optimizations I make to the build after the video is posted. You can also catch me live on twitch.tv/abbyhour to see this build in action. I stream on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Fl4k is a variation of my pet taunt build, but optimized with terror anointment gear from the Bloody Harvest event and prepared to take on the new endgame content coming on November 21st, the takedown on Maliwan's Black Site. Of course, since the event is not here yet, we don't exactly know what to expect, but Gearbox has given us some information. During the Borderlands show, they mentioned that the takedown on Maliwan's Black Site event will be a free content update and similar to Proving Grounds with multiple waves of mobs, but longer, around 30 minutes, including multiple mini-bosses with a larger boss at the end. It will also be scaled to 4-player level 50 co-op, no matter if you're solo, with 2, 3, or 4 players, and it's going to include some new enemies. They gave us a preview of 2 of the new enemy types. One of them actually absorbs elemental damage into their shield and shoots it back at you. So we're going to want to bring some non-elemental weapons, and it's important to keep that in mind with our build. Because we'll be fighting Maliwan forces, the gameplay footage in the background here is from Slaughter 3000, one of Borderlands 3's Circle of Slaughters, and it is on Mayhem 3 TVHM. I tried to find the most neutral Mayhem modifiers for you guys, so you can see those on the screen as well. My co-op team and I plan to take this event right at launch, and this is the Fl4k build that I'm going to be using. My gear isn't perfect yet, so I've been spending my time farming for more terror anointments and better shields and grenades to get this exactly perfect how I want it, but Fl4k is an excellent tanky support build that can dish out plenty of damage. Your pet will rarely die, and it's going to be taunting all the enemies while it's in Gamma Burst, so it gives your squad plenty of breathing room to mow them down. This build focuses heavily on stacking health regen that is then shared to your allies and your pet, which makes it a great co-op build. The gear I'm wearing utilizes terror anointments available in loot drops now through December 5th during the Bloody Harvest event. But don't worry, if you're watching this after the event, I'm also going to give you tips on how to achieve a similar build without the terror anointment. To apply terror to yourself, you can either consume green ghost skulls from dead enemies during Bloody Harvest event, or you can use one of 2 apply terror anointments. We'll be using the anointment on action skill N, apply terror to yourself every 5 seconds for the next 18 seconds. To play Fl4k, when you first get into the fight, look up to the sky, hit your Gamma Burst action skill 3 times to proc full terror stacks. Then place your Gamma Burst down on the ground, shoot stuff, and repeat. Always take out the most threatening enemies first while your pet is invulnerable in Gamma Burst. That way, when Gamma Burst runs out, your pet is not going to insta-die. When your Gamma Burst ends, you'll be stacking terror again. And then with my cooldown and cooldown reduction skills, my cooldown's around 9 seconds. I'm able to keep terror stacks up fairly easily. Just make sure to avoid reviving your pet with Gamma Burst, because this doubles your cooldown, and there's actually a bit of a bug with it right now where it will just keep doubling and doubling and doubling your cooldown. So you don't want to get to a point where you're waiting like a minute or more for your Gamma Burst to come back. You also may experience a bug where you revive your pet and they just stay in the place where you revived them and they don't move around. You can fix this by swapping out your pet and swapping back to the spider ant. You can always check out my pet bugs video to see both of those bugs in action. However, I try not to revive my pet whatsoever so that I don't get any of these bugs, but with this build you're going to see that your pet is super duper tanky. I was able to go all 5 rounds of Slaughter and my pet did not die a single time. And since the Maliwan takedown event is going to drop during the Bloody Harvest event, which ends on December 5th, there's going to be skulls in this event in the arena, so make sure that you consume the green skulls, the green ghost skulls, and definitely make sure you kill the red ones. The red badass ones are really super annoying. They shoot cryo at you and make you slow, and so make sure you always target those. Those should also be your priority because they are not going to aggro towards your pet, whereas everything else is, so make sure you clean those up as soon as they appear. I'm going to break down each section of the build in detail, but first here's the skill tree if you want to pause the screen and take a look. Now let's go into detail on some of these skills and why I chose them. If you just care about the gear, feel free to skip ahead. For the master tree, I put 2 points into ferocity. This is to help us get down to the next tier in the skill tree, and it's better than go for the eyes. We're not focusing on pet damage with this build, just survivability of our pet. When Gearbox buffs pet damage, it may be worth it, but for now, it's much more efficient to spec into flak damage instead. The Red Fang class mod can also add points to ferocity. Mine adds 3, giving it a 5 out of 5. Next up, it's important to have at least 1 point into He Bites. This can either come from the Red Fang class mod, like it does for me, or you can take 1 point out of the red tree and move it into He Bites. The reflective damage from enemies stacks Frenzy, so it makes it super easy to maintain 10 stacks for maximum flak and pet damage. For Gamma Burst skill augments, we'll be taking the only 2 available to us, Atomic Aroma and Empathic Rage. I don't invest any more points in the blue tree for the Endurance augment because we'd rather have Gamma Burst up more often than have it last longer, because that's going to help us keep our max terror stacks, since our Terror Anointment gives us terror stacks on action skill end. In the Stalker tree, we're going to invest 5 points into Self-Repairing System and 3 into All My BFFs. These skills combined with our gear is going to give our pet major survivability, and it also helps keep your teammates pretty healthy as well. 3 out of 3 into All My BFFs shares 50% of Flak's health regen with your allies and 100% of Flak's health regen with your pet. I found that with my gear setup, it was better to invest 8 points in here to give us 30% extra max health and all the health regen from All My BFFs, than to put points into Who Rescued Who from the Master Tree. And finally, the Hunter tree, where I like to get all my flak damage. Because I'm preparing for the Molly 1 takedown event, I decided to spec into Hunter's Eye. At 4 out of 5 points, we get 24% armor damage to robots and 12% critical hit damage to humans. I may even test putting 5 points into Hunter's Eye and taking 1 out of Second Intention, but for now I enjoy the reload speed that Second Intention gives me. Also in the Hunter tree, we're going to be using the Spider Ant Scorcher as our pet because she provides elemental damage and, most importantly, health regen. Alright, now that you've seen the skills, let's break down the gear. There are a few gear options for this build that I'm going to go over, but we want to focus on a few key perks. The first mandatory perk is going to go on your grenade or your shield, so either or, these are kind of interchangeable, but on one of them you're going to want on action skill end, apply terror to yourself every 5 seconds for the next 18 seconds. That's going to allow you to apply terror to yourself without having to rely on the ghosts, so this will be good after the Bloody Harvest event is over. And then on the other one, either your shield or your grenade, mine is on my shield, you're going to have while terrified gain health regeneration. The more terror you have, the higher the bonus. Now this is reported on Reddit as being 4% and then 6% and then 8% for each stack of terror. I haven't done my own testing on this, so I can't be certain that that's what it is, but it seems somewhere around there. So once you have these two, while terrified gain health regen and your apply terror perk either on your shield or grenade, but you want them on your shield and grenade so that they're active all the time. You don't want to have to worry about switching to a certain weapon to get health regen or switch to a certain weapon on action skill end so that you apply terror to yourself. You just want them to be passively active all the time, being on your shield and grenade. So for me, I'm using the Brawler Ward shield. It is not ideal for me, but for right now, it's the best shield for me to use from the ones that I have available because it has the health regen perk. It also gives you 2% max health per second while your shields are active, which is extra health regen, and it doubles when shields are depleted. So we'll be getting 4% max health per second when my shields are depleted fully. And it's a pretty nice shield coming in at 9701 capacity. What I would really love to get is a stopgap shield with brimming on it for the 5% max health per second while shields are full. This would be more than the Brawler Ward is when the shields are depleted, so this would be super nice to get with the health regen terror anointment on it, but I just haven't been lucky so far. So you could also use any shield with health regen terror anointment on it, and brimming is a bonus. You're going to want to have that additional health regen to keep your pet super tanky. Now if you're watching this after the Bloody Harvest event, event or you haven't been as lucky to get one of these health regen shields or grenades, then you can also use the Mendel's multivitamin shield. This one is actually a reward for completing an optional objective during a side quest on Athenas. The side quest is called Holy Spirits, and you pick it up from the dude at the brewery. I'll show you a little bit of footage of me picking up the quest and where it's located on the map in case you haven't done the quest yet and you want to pick it up. This shield is great because it gives you 50% max health in addition to what you already have. And it gives you 5% max health per second while shields are at full. So not only does it have brimming, but it also increases your max health. It actually puts my max health up to over 11,000, which in turn is going to increase that health regen because you're getting 5% of your max health per second while shields are full. And then for my grenade, I'm using this elemental staying power contact grenade. It's actually kind of crazy. I'm really enjoying it. It does almost 3k damage and it has blight, Reuter, and elemental damage on it. For our artifact, we're also going to be using Atom Bomb. I've noticed that this is the best just for exploding a lot in Molly 1 Takedown. We're also going to be going against a lot of humans, and it really just helps exploding and damaging all enemies that are near the explosion. So I use this. I also got health regen on it, which is super important as well. You're going to want health regen on your art, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it actually adds up quite a bit. And we also got action skill cooldown rate on this artifact, which I think is really great, especially for this because we're focusing on getting our gamma burst up as often as possible because we want that action skill end so that we can stack as much terror as possible. And then for our class mod, we want the Red Fang, of course. This one has 1 point into Heat Bites, and it also gives me plus 25% weapon damage, which is amazing. It gives me Jacob's weapon damage, which is great for my Maggie, and it gives me health regen. So we've got even more health regen on our class mod. I'm sure you're seeing a pattern here. So if we do the math, we get 1% health regen from our pet, 1.5% from self-repairing systems, 5% from a brimming shield, 8% at max terror stacks, and 3.5% from the 298 health regen that we get on our artifact and our class mod. And this equals a whopping 19% health regeneration at max terror stacks. Also, I would recommend picking up a Bounty Hunter class mod. This is the class mod that you're going to switch to for the bosses because it's going to treat the bosses as humans, beasts, and robotics. Most likely for the Molly 1 Takedown event, it's going to be robotics, and it's going to proc your purchased hunt kill skills whenever you deal damage. You have a 3% chance to proc those skills. So once you're at a boss phase and there's not a lot of ads around, you're going to want to switch class mods so that you'll do a lot more damage to the boss because you don't really need your pet to taunt the boss. If there are a lot of enemies around in addition to the boss, you might still want to keep your taunt on. But I've also heard that you can just put your Red Fang class mod on, pop your Gamma Burst, and switch class mods, and your pet will still taunt the enemies. So if you guys want to try that out, you're more than welcome to, but I have not tested that yet. So for our weapons, we're going to be using mostly cryo and corrosive weapons with one non-elemental weapon. As you guys remember in the beginning of the video, I talked about the new enemy types that are going to be in the Molly 1 Takedown. One of them is an enemy that absorbs elemental damage with their shield and then shoots it back at you. So we're going to be using the Maggie for this enemy most likely. I've also got a couple other weapons that I could use as well. But for the anointment, I got this one to drop with while terrified gain increased crit damage. The more terror you have, the higher the bonus. This anointment is amazing. It's awesome. I also have it on my Lucian's Call, which I think is super amazing for Lucian's Call because critical hits return 2 bullets to your magazine and ricochet, and you're doing more damage with the critical hits. So it's just all around an amazing synergy with Lucian's Call. So you're going to want to keep an eye out for this particular terror anointment. I think it's a really top-notch anointment from this event. And then also, if you guys watch my Twitch streams, you know I love my Nighthawken so very much. So we're going to be using that. It is anointed with while Gamma Burst is active, gain 65% bonus radiation damage. I feel like this anointment is still really, really good above a lot of the terror anointments, and it also helps with our Atom Bomb exploding enemies, doing aura damage, and helping to irradiate all of the enemies. And then lastly, I really love this Linoge. This thing melts, absolutely melts through robots and armored targets. So I'm definitely going to be bringing this along with me as well. I also picked up a corrosive stuff shredded lump. I have a video on this rocket launcher. It is amazing for lots of enemies for mobbing. And then another terror anointment to look out for is this one that I have on my Ruby's Wrath. While terrified, you have a chance to fire an extra projectile per shot. The more terror you have, the higher the bonus. And then another really great pistol that I like is this Skexel. You can actually farm it from the Scrack in Ascension Bluff on Pandora. This is a great alternative for the Linoge, and it also comes in corrosive as well. Alright guys, so that is it for the Pack Flak build guide. Let me know in the comments below which Vault Hunter you plan on taking into the takedown on Mollywan's Black Site first. I'll be streaming live on Twitch as soon as the event goes live, so make sure to stop by and say hello. And before you go, subscribe and ring the notification bell for more Borderlands 3 videos. Alright, bye bye!